Hi, I'm Paul Hanley, Director of the Carnegie Tsinghua Center. At today's panel with Maha Yahya, Director of the Carnegie Middle East Center, and Jared Blanc, Senior Fellow in the Geoeconomics and Strategy Program at the Carnegie Endowment, we examined the Middle East, including the stakes for the United States and China in this conflict-ridden and geopolitically significant region.
The ongoing Syria crisis, it's a crisis for the international order, not just for the region. The significance of this is that without a political transition, this country will continue to be a beacon of instability, not only for the region, but with potential spillovers that are worldwide. Certainly not the Russians, because they have declared a side. They've been involved in propping up the regime of Bashar al-Assad in Syria for the last few years. The US, on the other hand, also has very little credibility as an equidistant broker, but more critically also, it has no interest, as we're hearing now repeatedly from President Trump itself. I think China here is in a very unique position because it is the one global power on speaking terms with most of the actors, and therefore has the capacity perhaps to carve out a political initiative that can bring people around the table. The US has had historically vested interests in the region. Where they diverge today is that the US is losing and has been losing interest in maintaining any kind of footprint in the region, in the Middle East, partly because it no longer needs Gulf oil in the way it needed it before.
The Trump administration's Middle East policies have so far focused on counterterrorism, countering Iranian malign activities, and support of U.S. allies, especially Israel and Saudi Arabia. Yet the U.S. seems set to face a number of more serious tests in the region in the coming months.
President Trump's policies tend to exacerbate these problems. They're lacking a coherent strategic overview that would allow the United States to play a supportive role in addressing them. One of those questions is going to be how to respond to new U.S. sanctions on Iran, especially the threat of banking sanctions related to oil purchases. If other countries were to cut back their oil purchases from Iran, will China absorb some of that excess oil and so minimize the economic damage to Iran? Another question that China is going to confront relates to the Arak research reactor. So this is a reactor that Iran was building. It could potentially have produced weapons-grade plutonium. As part of the JCPOA, it tore out the guts of that reactor and is working with China to rebuild it in a way that does not pose a proliferation threat. China is going to need to decide whether to stick with the deal and to continue that construction project even if the US is out.
When discussing this with Chinese scholars, you'll find that most of them resolutely stand by the concept that they'd like more economic access, especially to energy resources, but prefer for China to stay out of the politics or the geopolitics of the region.
China sees its role as principally economic, and that makes a lot of sense. China is an important commercial partner. It's an important oil customer.
China's main economic interest today is in the promotion of the One Belt, One Road. As it tries to create projects in different countries of the region, it is automatically going to get embroiled to some extent in some of the conflicts in the region.
Beijing believes it can help solve fundamental issues of instability and poverty in Middle East countries in the same way that it solved those challenges at home with economic tools.
So the idea that you can promote economic projects without playing any kind of a role or getting involved politically, if not militarily, I think is something that China may want to do, but will find it increasingly more difficult to do.
Over time, it's going to be harder and harder to separate the economic from the political.
The question is, will they be enough in the view of Middle East countries and other stakeholders in the region? Will they expect China to not only contribute from an economic and trade standpoint, but will there be a hope that China can find ways to contribute to the security and the political challenges that drive much of what we see today? Thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for more analysis from our scholars at the Carnegie Tsinghua Center.